Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the EV portion. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome to the show.
So today we've got some things to cover as usual. First thing is Evanex, and it's either pronounced EV Annex or Evanex, and no one's sure because we looked it up before the show.
Well, on their About page on their website, there is a guy that's in a Tesla interviewing the founder, and he does say EV Annex. But
EV Annex.
Then on their Instagram, they say it the same, the Evanex way too. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we're going to give them a little plug this morning. They're a company that makes aftermarket accessories for Tesla, and does a pretty good job, actually. But they did a Did You Know? And can we throw up the image there, guys? It's image first EV, a picture of the first electric vehicle. And the background on this is the first EV was developed in the 1830s, long before gasoline cars even. And Scottish inventor Robert Anderson created an electric carriage powered by non-rechargeable primary cells. That means that you're not going to be able to go to a charger, supercharger, and get a recharge. You got to change the batteries every time you come back from a grocery store trip or something.
Yeah, the acid all burns out, and they got to refill them.
Yeah. The really cool thing about this is Evanex, along with many others now that we're beginning to notice, is using AI. This is an AI-generated image, and it has to be, if you think about it, because in 1830, even if they were able to take a photograph, it wouldn't have been in color.
Oh, yeah, and love seeing the AI usage, and I had no idea that the true first vehicles were not by the Benz brothers in the 1860s, but here in the late 1820s, and this one in the mid 1830s, were really the first horseless carriage style vehicles.
So as they say here, it looks like EVs have been around for almost 2 centuries, showcasing the enduring appeal and potential of electric vehicles in our quest for sustainable transportation solutions. Well done, EV Annex or Evanex. Like we had some questions coming in.
Yes, we do. PYGKLB is back. He's coming in from Oregon. Good morning, he says. First like. And good morning. Glad to see that you made it. And, with the time change, everyone else had to adjust a little bit. For us, it's still 10 o'clock.
Instagram, AidenH_19 says, thoughts on where full self-driving currently stands and when you think it will be out of beta. I think we were surprised this week to see that Farzad, who is normally very pro-Tesla, was on a podcast with another guest, and they were talking about the flaws in FSD, and it was more, I think, revealing than he normally, has on his podcasts.
Yeah.
Did you see that, by the way?
I did not see that particular one.
Jesse, I think you watched the whole thing. What did you think?
Farzad, I did not. I watched the first 10 minutes maybe. It's a very long video. But he just had a guest on. I'm not sure who it was, but he was just talking pretty negatively about it. They were saying that they didn't feel it was as safe as even FSD 11. So the 12 is definitely very much still a beta, according to these people. Just so you guys are aware, though, this morning Elon tweeted out saying 12.3 is coming out, and it's so large and impactful of an update, it might as well be called version 13.
Oh, really?
So that's happening now, but from what I understand, a lot of people have the consensus that FSD is basically like a teenager that just got their driver's license, is what people are saying.
Now, that's a scary concept.
Oh, boy.
There's an accident somewhere in that process.
And I think about where full self-driving is going to need to go, and some of the roads that I've driven on in my life, forest trails, roads where I can't even hardly see the road because it's snowing outside, the road's white, the ditch is white, everything is dark, there's all kinds of snow in front of you. How do you drive or navigate that? This is one of the most ambitious and difficult tasks that I can imagine occurring in terms of automation.
And of course, what increases the complexity is that we still have the crazy human drivers out there, which are going to make it unsafe for FSD.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the worst part about driving is everybody else.
Yeah. All right. Instagram, Sanjay021996 says, hello. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Sanjay. And then YouTube, Nick Wright, FSD should always be in beta.
Okay.
There is a point to that, I think. That makes sense.
All right. So we've got another image to pop up here. And this one is staying with the old EVs. This one is called...
100 years.
Yeah, there it goes.
You're talking about the Cybertruck one?
Yeah, the Cybertruck next to the Model T. And the headline on this was, wow, what a difference 100 years makes. This is a 1924 Ford Model T depot hack and a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck. And then they say, imagine the next 100 years. Can't.
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
It's and I think you think back to 1924 and you go back 20 years from there, in 1904, when the very first Model A's were coming out, and think about all the changes that you saw in cars in that 20-year span, and they were dramatic.
Yeah.
This, almost as dramatic as this change here. I can't even imagine to see what the cars are going to be like in another 100 years.
I mean, even projecting out 100 years on a linear scale is almost impossible, but we're on an exponential curve right now. And the changes will be unimaginable, I guess is the right word.
Probably is. I have a feeling that in 100 years, there is as much chance that there will be no car ownership because all cars will be self-driving and owned by some sort of conglomerate, and you always pick up whatever ride you need wherever you need it. And that would mean that all of the style choices and everything like that go away. You don't need them anymore.
And for safety reasons, you will not be given the controls of anything that deadly and heavy and massive and, that affects a lot of other people.
Exactly. On YouTube, PYGKLB says, interestingly, Bradford Ferguson has been driving a Tesla Tubers around in his FSD 12 car to plaudits.
Okay. YouTube, Highlander. Hey, gang. It's a 2 for Tuesday. Here at the Gruber Companies, 2 live podcasts in the same 2 hours. Hit that like button, y'all. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it's a twofer.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Highlander. And like you always like to say, kindness is always free.
YouTube Exploration. Hello from Starbase. Starship is only 2 days away. I know there's a bunch of you guys living out there, influencers, and they have made it life's mission to report consistently from that location.
That's very cool. On YouTube, Randolph Schnack says, neat picture of the T versus Tesla.
By the way, for those of you on Instagram, or if you're seeing green screen, it's just because we haven't gotten the Instagram fix yet. You can see the full featured program, including the images that were popping up periodically on either YouTube, not Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, it just goes on and on.
Yes, it's on TikTok, but YouTube is our main channel. And for those that are on those channels, everything but Instagram, they can see a picture of a Cybertruck in the background today.
So another news item, the power for Tesla Giga Berlin Brandenburg, Grünheit as they call it, has been restored. If you remember last week, there was breaking news that there was a terrorist group called the Vulcan Group, which is an anti-Tesla entity, apparently, that blew up a transformer. Well, we've got a little bit more detail about what this was. It was actually a 110,000-volt substation, which is usually pretty substantial.
Real quick, guys, we're getting reports of feedback. Can you check your power cords? Just make sure we're not touching any mic cables.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am far away. All right. So, the kill power to not only the Gigafactory, but a few thousand households in that district and some of the other industrial sites that were near or being fed by that substation. Even hospitals and medical operations in the area were adversely affected, they say. So the repairs have been completed faster than they thought they would. E.DIS apparently is the utility there. And everybody is grateful that they got things back up and running 9 p.m. Monday evening this week. They say that that full operation at Giga Berlin has not completely resumed yet, but at least people are coming back to work and they're able to get cars out. Now, I thought at this point I would read you the German version of that, and just to see if I can practice my German before I go to the Tesla takeover in Austria in May. We're going to talk about that here in a while.
Come on, B, you mean you're not fluent?
No. Well, you tell me after I read this. Gigafactory wiederhergestellt. Nun laufen unter allen Sicherheitsvorkehrungen die Maßnahmen zum Wiederanlauf auf Hochtouren. Es wird sich noch einige Zeit dauern, bis wir die Produktion wieder vollumfänglich aufgenommen haben, aber der wichtigste Schritt ist getan. Power on. They threw a little English in there.
Yes.
The rest of that, vielen Dank, many thanks, IDA DIS, the power utility there, für die schnelle Wiederinbetriebnahme und allen Beteiligten und vor allem unser Mitarbeiter für die Unterstützung in den letzten Tagen.
Sounds pretty German to me.
And, you know, I've got to be rusty, but it just seems to me that I'm more comfortable, I guess, with English. It flows a lot easier. There's a whole lot of choppiness in that text that I just read, and you really have to work with your tongue and, you know, your vocal cords, I guess, to get all this out.
It totally makes sense. It reminds me of my father in the Peace Corps in the 1960s. Went to Morocco, had a 3-month French immersion. He went from non-speaking to French only in 3 months' time, spent 2 years in Morocco. When he came back to the States, because he was 100% speaking French in Morocco, actually had to relearn some English phrases.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is. And so I can totally understand. You grew up a good portion of your childhood in Germany, and yet it would be difficult to get the pronunciations and reading right.
So, you know, when we go back, and we used to before COVID every couple of years or so, and we would usually stay 3 to 4 weeks, there was a shift that occurs while you're there, speaking mostly German, you begin to think in German.
Oh, sure. I could totally understand that.
And then you shift back when you come here, and it's kind of a shock, you know. There's something going on up here that your brain doesn't like, I think.
It's fascinating.
It is, but you know, bilingual, trilingual, multi-language, it's definitely useful these days. My little granddaughter, she says words that we don't understand because her mom is Mexican, and they're teaching her full-bore Spanish, you know.
I'm very glad that they're doing that too, because our world here in the United States is going to be a multilingual world in the future.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Europe, that's quite normal. The distance between countries is like the distance between states here.
Yeah.
And it'd be very difficult for us to go to California and have a different language, Mexico, a different language. Well, we already do.
Yeah, well, Mexico, but
New Mexico,
to
that's
go
what
to
I
New
meant, yeah.
Mexico and California and Oregon and Washington and have 5 different languages would be incredibly difficult.
And that's how it is in Europe. So they're forced to learn other languages. TikTok Phone House is joining us. Hello from Mexico. Glad you're with us. All right, let's see what else we've got here. We've got a picture to throw up here, guys. It is the, well, that one I didn't have. All right.
Oh, that one we need to.
It's a good one. It's the various charge plugs.
You want me to look up all the different types of charge plugs?
Yeah, it's actually, well, actually, let me do this. I'm going to throw that into a screenshot program, and then we'll post it out there. And in the meantime, if Mark has something, oh, YouTube, Ray Johnson. All right. He's joining us. He says, Sehr gut, Herr Gruber. That means I did pretty good with that German. Thank you, Ray. Good.
You know,
I'm also learning German, so I read it and I was like, hey, I know what that says.
Yeah, I've got that screenshot coming up just momentarily here.
Okay, perfect. What we're going to throw up here is, it's the first decent chart I saw of all of the charging standards around the world, at least the most notable ones. And it's amazing how many there are and how simple the next standard is and why people are going to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there now, Jesse. Perfect. Thank you, Mark.
You bet.
So the first of all, you can see that the J1772 standard is up at the top, and that's North America, and that's very popular still. Then there's a Japanese standard, which is also J1772. So it looks like both of those countries adopted that standard.
Yeah, they
at some
seem to
point.
both have the same standard.
Then, of course, you have EU, and they always like to add some things or make it a bit more complicated. And we've got the EU Menicus Type 2 standard, which has, as you notice, more pins.
Why would that be? I was wondering that and wondered if you would know.
I don't, but if I had to guess, it has to do with safety, I'm sure. Instead of just a single interlock, they probably want a double fail-safe.
Okay.
You know, something that makes it even safer. And so anyway, China, you've got the GBT, and that one looks a bit different too. To the far right there, you can see the NACS standard, and of course, that's the emerging, a universal standard now. All markets, they say, except EU at this point.
Yeah.
Now, if we go down to the DC charging standards, now you can see that it adds a layer of complexity because some of these standards can't accommodate both types, DC and AC charging. So with the CCS1, you've got the DC down below, two big, thick, heavy, high current type connections, and then you've got the J1772 above that. Then you've got CHAdeMO, which was a Japanese standard, it turns out, which was 100% DC. Then you've got the CCS2, which is the EU standard, which has, as you can see, the Menicus plug up above, and then the DC portion down below. And the most confusing to me was the GBT DC standard, which looks like it's a combination of the AC plus DC.
It really does. And less people not understand on like the CHAdeMO, my Kia Soul EV had a CHAdeMO plug. And the CHAdeMO plugs are about 4 inches around.
Okay.
They're massive, huge. This standard here makes it look like the CCS is considerably larger than it, or that it's close to the J1772. It's not. The J1772 is an inch and a half or so. The the CCS1 is, it's tall, but it's the same thing. The CHAdeMO you could put a CCS1 plug inside a CHAdeMO plug.
So we're just so pleased that there is finally an emerging standard that is being adopted, rapidly by the majority of the car manufacturers.
Yeah.
And if you want to get your head around this, it's kind of like in the world of audio equipment. You know, you have different types of plugs and jacks for various functions. Like for the RF signals, you have the coax with your CATV connector, and that's what feeds the antenna input to your TV. Then is fed by that. Then you have the audio, the high impedance inputs, which are RCA jacks. Or you may have, these quarter-inch jacks, but there aren't dozens of different variations, which means that the manufacturers now can build to one standard, and basically one size fits all. Makes it much easier.
It does make it much easier. I have heard in multiple cases the main advantage of the NACS standard with Tesla is simply that it's easy to handle. You know, it's very easy to just pick it up with one hand. It's what is about 1.5 inches, a very simple to plug in and unplug type of a connector. Even the CCS, which is so tall and so wide, so 4 inches tall and 2.5 wide, can be kind of unwieldy to try to plug into a car.
Oh, sure. And then you have, of course, the power cable that feeds it, which is oftentimes the size of a garden hose, filled not with water, but with copper, which adds weight. Well, that gets very cumbersome. The other thing that I found interesting, by the way, this chart was supplied by a Chinese manufacturer of sockets and plugs, but they don't call them plugs. They call them charging guns. And I thought, well, that's kind of appropriate if you think about it.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah. It's a company called Evoyage, Evoyage, and they are in the business of making a lot of these sockets and charging guns. So we're very pleased that they are standardizing. By the way, for the the auction that we just went to, where that we bid on product, we're picking up our product today. We've been talking about this. Solo, also known as the parent company, Electromechanica, has shut down their 235,000 square foot production facility here in East Mesa. And as a result, a lot of product is for sale, and we've been buying a lot of it. I ended up buying some charge cables, by the way. They're the J1772 style.
Okay.
And we're going to need a lot of them for our EV storage facility with adapters for the Tesla Roadster. So we'll be putting CAN Juniors on these cables.
Yes.
And the end result will be that we'll have a lot of charging capability with those. YouTube, Marco German says, more pins in EU is for 3-phase. Okay, you're right. Here we have split phase for those charge cables.
Sure.
And you have that third phase that you have to contend with.
So in the EU, their electricity comes in as a 3-phase signal instead of a split-phase signal then?
Apparently for the higher current. In the homes, they still have split phase, or actually it's just one phase because it's 230 volts. They don't have 120.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
But the commercial is usually 3-phase in a variety of countries because you have all of that extra energy being consumed. And it makes it easier splitting that across 3 phases rather than trying to feed it all through one phase with a neutral.
Sure. And then Highlander, he says, go Team Cass. Don't forget to put the sunglasses thing out there. So, Cass.
That was your cue, Cass.
Are you ready?
I mean, I guess I'm ready. So
Here's the case.
let's see. The sun is coming up a lot more now in the morning. So I have to start taking out my sunglasses. But where do I keep my sunglasses once I've made it to work? I keep them in this handy dandy little sunglass case.
That was pretty good, Cass.
I don't know what else to say.
don't
I mean,
think
it's
nothing more
nice.
needs
It's
to be
leather.
said.
It's very soft. It does
Yeah.
not scratch your sunglasses at all. It's got our little logo on it. You could even
Can
have
we get
your
a close up a little bit?
favorite like VIN number on it from your favorite Roadster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
We can customize these. That's right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Talk about that enough. Yeah. Thank you, Highlander, for reminding us that it was commercial time. We'll eventually be doing product placement if someone will pay us to put a Coke can there or something.
That's right.
Liquid Death.
Yeah, yeah. TikTok, Little T says, hello, Pete. How are you doing? I'm doing well. Thank you, Little T. All right. So another item. Tesla launches a program offering early deliveries for the Foundation Series Cybertruck to qualified Tesla shareholders in the United States and Canada. And this is an offer designed specifically for verified Tesla shareholders who have held their stock in the electric vehicle maker for a significant amount of time. Doesn't say how much time, does it?
I do have information on that. I actually went to the Tesla site and looked up what specifically are the requirements for this. First, you have to have a Cybertruck reservation and have not received your Cybertruck yet, or if you have multiple reservations, have not received any Cybertruck yet, and your reservation has to have been made prior to March 1st of 2024. You have to own at least 500 shares of stock as of February 29th of 2024. You have to have owned shares of Tesla stock since at least February 28th of 2021, so 3 years.
3 years. Okay. All right.
And finally, the stock that you owned in 2021, you cannot have sold off more than half of it.
Okay. So it kicks out the day traders immediately.
It kicks out the day traders, and basically what they're saying is your minimum is 500 shares, and if you have sold Tesla stock, then you cannot have sold more than half of your interest in Tesla in the last 3 years. If you do that, you're going to be able to get a Foundation Series Cybertruck.
Mm-hmm.
So now Foundation Series is different than your typical Cybertruck. The Foundation Series it's more cosmetic than anything.
Is it like the signature status in that it was a certain number built, limited edition,
That's right.
serialized? Okay. all
There's
right.
going to be about 1,000 of them. It's going to have a white interior, It's going to have a name, a signature plaque on it that says that it's a Foundation series. And there are a few other little tidbits. Probably the biggest one that might be actually worthwhile is the whole idea of the vehicle to home charging. That it gets included. They contact people who want Foundation Series Cybertrucks and say, okay, do you have the capability of doing this? Let's figure out how to set it up. Let's get the quotes, and they'll actually set up your vehicle to home charging so that you can have that backup charging off your Cybertruck if your power goes out at your house.
Interesting. You know, we were all cheering on Sandy Munro, who landed finally a Cybertruck that he could tear down. And we thought, wow, it's, he's pretty impressive. He actually got one. Well, found out this morning, Jesse was saying that he now has 2 of them.
Yeah, 2. Wow.
Were there any details, Jesse, as to how that second one appeared, or was that just because he bought 2 of them? And
Yeah, he bought them. He bought one to tear down and one for personal use.
Amazing. Sandy, our hats off to you. We're looking forward to your analysis and your deep dive into that ubiquitous and strange vehicle that has taken over transportation.
Yeah. And speaking of ubiquitous, they are starting to appear out in the wild, as it were. I saw one this last weekend. I even saw my first picture of a Cyber Bully truck.
Really? Let's bring that up.
It's called Cyber Bully.
And right after that entertaining picture, we'll talk about a Motor Trend article where they give a sobering analysis.
So that is a Cyber Bully truck.
Okay.
Somebody in California driving their vehicle past a Tesla charger happened to see this, and somebody decided they were going to put the Texas Longhorns on the front of the Cybertruck, and they called it, and they call it in their Facebook post a Cyber Bully truck.
They had a heck of a time getting that off the wall in their study. But, yeah. Amazing. So an article came out by Motor Trend, and they were reviewing the Cybertruck. And I looked at the article, and my God, it was a mile long. I mean, literally, it would have taken me an hour or 2 to decrypt all of that. So I thought, oh, wait, we've got AI. So I fed all of that mile-long narrative and text into ChatGPT-4, and it did a perfect job of giving me bullet points. So I'm going to share with you what the Motor Trend article says about the Cybertruck. And we'll start with the pros first, although there are far fewer pros than there are cons. The first one is decent truck overall. Good general statement, all right? 2, attracts a lot of attention. Now, there's an understatement if you've ever...
Oh, my gosh, yes.
The feedback we're getting is that, in fact, a friend of mine, Brenda Pretty, let me talk about that. Can we bring up Brenda's post? Brenda is a well-known auto enthusiast here in Arizona. I've known her for 15, 20 years. She shows up at all the car events. She actually used to go out to the proving grounds and take spy pictures of the cars that they were testing.
Oh, yes, okay.
And she was treated none too kindly oftentimes by pseudo security that would come out into these far, out in the country type places and ask her to leave. And she'd point out, I'm on public property. You have no jurisdiction here, and I've got a telephoto lens I'm taking pictures with. But anyway, Brenda frequents all of the car events, and I was so pleased to see her post this. This is the Laguna Blue Cybertruck owned by Dr. Larson here locally, Jay Larson. And she must have seen this at a car event within the last few days because she posted some of her pictures of this truck. And she has an eye for photography. She is definitely one of the most foremost photographers in the state of Arizona. So Brenda, thanks for sharing that with us.
That is the same color of Cybertruck as the one that visited us at Gruber Motors.
That is the truck.
And that is the truck, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's
I'm sure because, it's the only one in Arizona by that color. And this is an Arizona car event, which is where Brenda...
It had to have been the same truck then.
Yeah, frequents. All right. So getting back to the Motor Trend article, the second one was attracts a lot of attention. Yeah, definitely. And then the third one, drives and charges like other Teslas.
Okay.
All right. So from here we go into the cons. Design compromises functionality. a broad term, but
Now, what does that mean exactly?
it sounds good though, right?
Yeah, I guess.
All right, here's one that might be a little bit, you can relate a little bit more. Overly minimalistic interior.
I think of that, and to me, that's an opinion.
Opinion, yeah.
One person is going to say it's an overly minimalistic interior because you have 2 seats and a steering wheel and a screen, and that's it. Somebody else is going to say, "Oh, I love the clean lines and everything clean and
It's so uncluttered.
Spartan and uncluttered in the cab."
Yeah. Falls short of the hype. Opinion?
I think that's absolutely opinion.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason I would say that is, well, maybe you could say it falls short of the hype because just look at how much hype there is.
Well, good point. Yeah, we're flooded and inundated with hype. Maybe it's not exactly, as much as people would like. So, then they say design-related visibility issues. Well, okay. My first reaction when I drove one a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Larson came out here. I drove Laguna Blue, the one that you saw in the picture. And my first reaction was looking up at the rearview mirror, and I realized it's dark, basically, because the tonneau cover was closed. And you can't see out the rear window when that tonneau cover's closed.
Okay, that's fair.
So he pointed me, says, "Oh, you got to look at the screen now," which is about 12 inches lower or so. And sure enough, there was a picture of what was going on in the rear, like a rear view mirror. It's something you're going to have to get used to. If you're used to looking up at the rear view mirror, you're not going to have to look down at the screen. Only if the tonneau cover is closed.
Okay, that's fair. Were you able to see the front of the truck?
I did not feel in any way that there was any kind of visual obstruction looking toward the front of the vehicle. Now, if I had spent more time with it, I probably could have done a more in-depth analysis, but all I did was I drove it a couple of miles, did a U-turn, which the U-turn was cool, by the way. I should probably talk about that. I've got my own personal racetrack up here by Gruber Motor Company. It's Deer Valley Road. It's safe. There's no side axis. You can see a mile down the road, and there's a median, so if no one's going to come charging into you from the other side. So it's pretty safe. But anyway, I get to the end of Deer Valley Road, 7th Street. Now I've got to make a U-turn, and usually, even in a Tesla Roadster, you've got to swing out a bit in order to make that turn.
Yeah.
Right. With the Cybertruck, I started to swing out, and I realized that's fairly easy because both the rear and front wheels actually turn.
Yes.
And then I've got this yoke wheel, and I did a quarter turn. I thought, oh, I'm not going to make it. And suddenly I realized this truck is turning on a dime, and I had plenty of room to spare. So with that steering mechanism in place, the steer-by-wire, by the way, and its sensitivity, it did a U-turn like no car I've ever driven. Pretty amazing.
That's pretty cool. And I went ahead and read a little bit on the Cybertruck Owners Forum. There is a new forum out there for that. Some people are saying, yeah, it's kind of hard to see out of. Other people are saying, once you get used to it, you're sitting high, it's a pickup truck, and you can see. And it has the same well-known good visibility lines that any other pickup truck would have. Plus, you've got this windshield that's, feels like it's 17 feet tall.
Yeah.
And so you have forever to see in front of you and no obstructions or anything like that. So other people were saying the visibility is great.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
So just to clarify on the rear view mirror, is it just a mirror? There's no video, like a display inside the mirror?
There is both. There's the traditional type mirror, mechanical type mirror, and then there's the screen down below it.
The mirror itself is just a mirror, though.
Yeah, the mirror itself is just a mirror. It doesn't have a video.
Yeah,
So,
some mirrors have a little video
I see
display
what you're
in the
saying.
corner of the mirror itself.
so like Corvettes, you can actually see a video
you're
display of the mirror. There's no mirror there. It's just a video display. I'm surprised the Cybertruck wouldn't have that option of either the mirror or a video playing actually inside there.
It may very well have all of that, except I was overwhelmed in the 10 minutes or so I spent in the truck trying to get used to it. The other thing that was remarkable, was just completely remarkable was I'm used to driving this street. I'm very familiar because I've been up here 40 years, right? I know every nook, cranny, crack, pothole, all of that. This thing was as smooth as a Cadillac driving down the street. But it felt very substantial. It felt like a military vehicle or a construction vehicle until you tried to do something like turn a little bit, and then you realize it was nimble, but yet heavy. Just heavy feeling. It wasn't like my Tesla Roadsters, which kind of bounce and you get a little off steer and all that, right? This thing was just tracking solid.
Yeah, that to me is going to be one of the things that makes this vehicle unique. I guess unique is a misnomer a little bit because there are other EV pickups out there. There's the Ford and the Lightning and the Rivian R1T, but any of that class of pickup is going to feel so different than a normal pickup truck because you've got a big, heavy vehicle that drives like a sports car.
Right. Good point. Yes. Yeah. So the question TikTok does says, is the steering electric or hydraulic? It's a steer by wire, which would be electric then basically in that description. Yeah, there is no mechanical linkage that you can feel anymore. And the steer-by-wire technology really isn't new. It was incorporated into airplanes some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So continuing here, the difficult to reach cargo in bed due to design. I'm not sure what they mean by that.
I was thinking about that, and Chevy came out with their Avalanche, and Honda had come out with its Ridgeline a few years back, that both have the elevated side like you see on the back of the Cybertruck. And that was kind of a complaint. You can't go to the side of the vehicle and get to your cargo. You have to go to the back gate and typically have to drop the back gate. And the Cybertruck, due to the height of the top of the back gate, is even more so. You pretty much have to drop that back gate. So I kind of can see this complaint a little bit.
So if you're used to jumping in your half-ton pickup truck, without opening the rear tailgate to jump inside the bed, you can't do this with this vehicle.
Yeah, it's harder to do this, and it's harder to just reach over the side and grab something that's sitting right there at the wheel well. You're not going to do that here, but you can on a standard pickup.
The other cool part about this was the owner said, the truck looks better when the hydraulics are extended all the way and it sat up high, right? And there was a good gap between the top of the tire and the fender well. But he said to get in the truck, since he had his key, he says, I always lower it. And he did that for me, and now it's closer to the ground, of course. And then when you're driving, he raised it back up. So that's part of what made it feel like you really had a lot of road presence. You were eating a lot of asphalt.
Sure.
All right, they say electric towing has benefits but reduces range significantly. Well, that's true with any EV.
Yes, it is. It's true with any vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I have a 1996 Chevrolet K1500. It gets about 14 miles to the gallon. If I'm towing a trailer, even if it's a small trailer, that goes down to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? I've lost 30% of my range.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I don't think about it. Why? First, there's a gas station around every corner, just about, and secondly, I've got a 35-gallon gas tank.
Mm-hmm.
So they compensated by giving me a bigger gas tank. But it's true no matter what vehicle you have. I'm sure that Aaron would say the same thing with his diesel.
Mm-hmm.
What do you have a Ford F-250, right, Aaron?
Yes, with the 6.7 Power Stroke.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess if you're in a vehicle that only gets 9 miles a gallon to start with, and you drop it to 7, you don't think of it too much. But
it's costing a lot anyway.
But regardless, it's true of all. It's true of all vehicles. It's not just EV. And I just get tired of these people making such a big deal about EVs losing range.
So, off-road capability limited by design and tire choice. Well, I think any off-roading is affected by tire choice. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, tire choices. Well, this is a new vehicle too. So, I mean, there's not going to be a lot of setups. Ford F-150, F-250, F-350, those have been around for, decades. So you're going to have more choices. There's going to be people messing around, putting bigger tires, offsetting tires on them. The Cybertruck, this is brand new. We still got to figure out which tires would be better, which ones would look good on it. So you'll have more choices probably within the next few years.
Looks like we got some feedback here on one of the mics. So, but yeah, it's it's a road and track car basically, or off-road. And so you have a general purpose tire, but for specific applications, I would imagine that there are much better tires if you're going to go rock crawling with this thing.
Well, what's crazy though is that with the Cybertruck, they come. Is it 35 tires?
35-inch, yes. Yeah.
So that's stock on the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
In order for me to get 35s on my F-250, I'm going to have to modify it heavily.
Really?
So if I buy this brand new, say if I buy an F-250 brand new for $70,000 and I want to put 35s on there, I'm going to have to redo half the suspension on it, plus buy the tires. So now I'm looking at what, 10, 15K, something ridiculous to spend, if I want to do it right and have good quality components on there, where Cybertruck comes stock with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's in a suspension and clutch and good Mickey Thompson tires that are 35s are going to cost you $1,000 a tire.
Yeah. So then they say handling and stopping performance could be better with different tires. I think that somebody here was just assigned to find some flaws with the Cybertruck, and they did a pretty good job, I think.
Yeah.
Sounds like somebody who's never driven a truck before.
That's right. Quite possibly. Yeah, there you go. Good point. Then they say interior and control design prioritize aesthetics over function. Opinion?
Oh, absolutely opinion in my mind. At the same time, I think the person who wrote this article was looking at the Cybertruck as a construction utility truck more than as a status symbol type truck. And I would bet that almost everybody who has a Cybertruck right now has it because of the status symbol that it is. They at some level, they like that people stop at the mall and pull out their phones and take pictures of their truck while it's parked in the parking lot.
This has been the best thing for extroverts since sliced bread.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to be an extrovert in order to drive one of these because you can't get away without a conversation. Even going through a drive-through at the hamburger place, Jay was telling us, they not only stopped him, but they all flooded out of the facility and took pictures with the truck, shutting down their operation temporarily, basically.
Oh, man.
These things are celebrity. These are celebrity vehicles.
Yes.
All right, and then finally they say exterior build quality issues with panel alignment and gaps.
That is more likely fact than opinion. We've even seen the past, there were some delays on the production and rollout of the Cybertruck for this very reason. And Elon Musk had that infamous tweet or famous tweet about 10 microns being the maximum allowable variation on these gaps.
All right, Facebook, Natur Chetri says, hey, boss, why can't we see solar charger vehicles after a long time? The Aptera is an intriguing design in that it is a EV headed for production status that actually has a roof coated with solar panels. The Fiskars, some of the Fiskars cars also had this, but I'm not sure where they are these days.
I'm not sure where they are on those. I actually did see an article this last week, too, about somebody who put a modification onto his Model Y. Basically, a roof rack, for lack of a better way of saying it, with solar panels and allowed him to charge and get about 20 miles a day.
Yeah. I think Jesse's going to switch out your microphone. All right, Facebook. Mandel Gima T says, does the Cybertruck have collision sensors?
If I remember right, isn't it like some kind of ultrasonic sensors it has around the truck itself? I know when we were doing some video shoots of it, I mean, geez, it seemed like every 2 or 3 feet there was a sensor somewhere.
Some type, yeah. We'll have to get back on exactly how many, where, and what. But yeah, there was something like that. And again, we didn't spend much time with it. I think it was at our Gruber Motor Company facility for probably 1 hour, hour and a half or so, including the drive time.
Like that.
Yeah. Although I understand there may be some more coming. Aaron's got a neighbor that's got a Cybertruck in his neighborhood.
Yeah, I just can't keep up with him.
Okay.
It's too quick for me.
And TikTok, Des says, you could go crazy with liveries on corporate-sponsored vehicles so much.
Oh, sure. I could see something like that totally.
And TikTok Smuggler, he sends us a heart gift. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Smuggler. Good to have you here today.
Yeah. There's another one coming in. We'll get that in a moment here. But I wanted to tell you about an event in Europe. It's called the Tesla Takeover Europe, and it's May 25th and 26th in Flachau, Austria, which is outside of Salzburg. If you're not familiar with the region, it's nestled right in the Alps. It was where they filmed the movie The Sound of Music, and it is definitely a scenic place, especially that time of year, which is their early summer. And there will be this time around up to 1,000 Teslas expected to be there. This Tesla Takeover event, by the way, started 3 years ago, and it started in the United States. And I'm trying to look it up here. Come to me in a second here. It was, there we go. The first Tesla Takeover event took place 3 years ago in California. After 3 extremely successful editions in North America, it is now debuting in Europe for the first time. These guys, the Austrian Tesla Club, actually did something last year. It was in Hallstatt, Austria, which is a beautiful village that's nestled on a shore by an alpine lake with the Alps behind it. And in the town square, they had a number of Teslas, only about 20 or so, maybe 30. And there will be Tesla Roadsters, by the way, included in this mix of 1,000 cars. There are already some of our customers in Europe that are talking about being there and looking forward to meeting me because I will be there. It just turns out coincidentally, we were visiting my brother in Rosenheim, which is just across the border between Austria and Germany in Bavaria, Germany. And it's so close. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be joining this group that is going to be there May 25th and 26th. The Tesla Takeover. There will be other influencers there as well. I understand Bearded Tesla may be there. I have yet to get a hold of Sandy to figure out if he's going to be there. And it'll be a fun time. The Tesla people are a good community. They're a great crowd. And as I look at the location where this is taking place, this is the appropriate place for alternative energy and sustainable transportation.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, why would you want to take a pristine environment like this and pollute it with hydrocarbons and fuel and all of that?
We definitely need to take in coming weeks and get some pictures of what the area is and what it looks like, so our viewers can understand exactly where it is that you're going.
Mm-hmm. So they say that this Tesla Takeover event will have a wide variety of speakers, workshops, live music, light shows, and so much more. And as they say, more importantly, it's an opportunity to bring the Tesla community together all in one place. And there are a number of countries represented, by the way. One of our customers in Portugal, Portugal is going to be there. The Portugal Tesla Club is invited, the Swedish, the French Club, of course, the Austrian, the German, the Italian Club. So it's going to be a pretty wide cultural affair.
Okay, real quick, before the show ends here in about 7 minutes, I'm gonna ask Mark a question and let him talk because I need to hear his mic.
Okay.
So Mark, what are your opinions on the Rivian event? Let's talk about that maybe.
Well, I was surprised, I think, as so many people were on the Rivian event. Rivian came out, of course, with the R2S. I think they're getting it right. We've talked about this with Lucid. The truck market and the SUV market are combined the largest automobile market here in the United States, about 80%. The R2S, which is a little smaller than the R1S and is going to come in at about $47,000, is right in the sweet spot amongst the competition of ICE and electric vehicles. The R3S, which was a surprise announcement, a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact, met with wildly rave popular reviews. I happen to think it looks like a 1970s AMC Gremlin, personally. I don't like the look of it at all. But overall, Rivian was, I was very impressed with the Rivian presentation and with the surprise of the R3 series vehicles.
And wait, there's more. That was a great segue
Yes.
into that second vehicle. RJ Scaringe did the presentation. He's the CEO of Rivian. And we've got a video coming out, I think, today on your take on the financials.
Mm-hmm. You know, Rivian is they like all the EV startups have kind of a hard road ahead. But I'm not going to give away too much of what I put on my rant. And I have high hopes for Rivian and for Lucid. I would like to have high hopes for Fisker, but it seems like they're struggling with some quality issues. And there's real questions about whether or not Fisker is going to be around in another year.
Mm-hmm. Unless they're purchased or bought out.
Yeah, I think they're at the point where they're actively looking for that white knight company to come in and save them and buy them out.
So here's one that fits in the category of what were they thinking. But before we do that, Instagram. Alberto Cisneros 8928. Gentlemen, good morning. Please recommend a book for beginners in electric vehicles. I will appreciate it. Have a good day, gentlemen. I would say go to our YouTube channel, and not just ours, but some of the others that are out there that are doing EV teardowns, that are revealing what's under the hood of these electric vehicles.
Yes.
Although we do have an author that wrote about EVs.
Yeah, Ingemar
Anderson.
Anderson.
Yes. He has a book. It's available on Amazon. And it mentions us in the book, so that's another reason to purchase it. But he has a good expertise on electric vehicles, and it's represented in that book that he has available. Ingemar Anderson is the author.
And the best way to look up Ingemar's information is actually to probably look him up by name on Amazon.
Yeah.
His books are for sale on Amazon.
All right, here's a good one. Instagram is joining us.
Yes.
Wilhelm Cijovral, and he says in Dutch, Ozio heben die Gasten in Brill op ha ha ha. I almost get that because there's similarities between German and Dutch. But what he's saying is, why do these guys have glasses on? Ha 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 ha. We are going to reveal why that is. Why do Gruber Productions always have sunglasses at some point in history, but not this week or this month? YouTube Highlander, please don't forget Muskegon, Michigan in June. That's right. There's an event there, and Highlander is going to be doing some Scottish dancing, I believe, at that event.
Yes.
All right. So here's what were they thinking? On Friday, March 8th, a pallet of used batteries from the International Space Station re-entered Earth's atmosphere over the Gulf of Mexico following an unpredictable journey through orbit. Now that sends shivers up your spine. Unpredictable journey. Now, how big was this? Was this a little, AAA battery? No. This was a pallet that contained 9 batteries and weighed 2.9 tons. We're talking about 3 tons of batteries. That's like 3 Tesla Roadster batteries, 1,000 pounds
yeah.
each. Or no, more than that, because it would be 6 of those at 3 tons, 2,000 pounds per ton.
Yeah.
Right? It had been tossed out by the Canadarm2 robotic arm in March of 2021 and has since been tumbling towards Earth in an uncontrolled reentry. Another one that sent shivers up my spine.
Oh my gosh, yes.
They say the chaotic fall through orbit finally came to an end last week when the cargo pallet re-entered on March 8th. So it's already happened. So if we're still alive,
Yes.
we're okay.
We're okay.
Right?
We're okay.
Around 3:29 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, somewhere, another one that scares me, above Cancun and Cuba, according to Jonathan McDonald, an astrophysicist who's been tracking this piece of ISS trash. Now, here's another sobering statistic. A couple of minutes later for re-entry, and it would have reached Fort Myers, Florida.
Yeah, this is just craziness. I read something from Popular Mechanics. I didn't know about this one when I read the article, and it was talking about uncontrolled reentries of satellites.
Yeah.
And they, the satellite, the splashdown in the North Pacific Ocean, and you've got shipping lanes, you've got cruise ships, you've got airplanes, you have human beings crisscrossing the world.
Hiking.
At some point in our future, one of these uncontrolled reentries is going to hit a population center and kill people.
Yeah.
And I think it's just ridiculous. It's something that can be controlled. You can make it controllable to the point of reentry.
And on that note, we're going to switch over here in 5 minutes to the Tesla Roadster podcast at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We appreciate all of you joining us as always. We'll see you next week or in 5 minutes.
Take care.